In early October 2025, China's Ministry of Commerce released a policy update known as Announcement Number 62. At first glance, it looked routine, just another technical change in trade rules. But hidden within its pages lay something far more consequential: a sweeping expansion of controls on rare earth exports. A move that could reshape global supply chains and test the fragile trade truce between China and the United States. Rare earth elements may sound obscure, but they're the silent engines of the modern world. Inside every smartphone, every electric vehicle, every wind turbine and fighter jet, these minerals are the invisible power behind progress. So when the world's largest processor of rare earths decides to tighten control, the shockwaves reach far beyond trade statistics. They touch industries, innovation, and diplomacy itself. Under the new measures, any company seeking to export materials containing rare earths must first obtain government approval and disclose exactly how those materials will be used. It may seem like a bureaucratic detail, but experts say it grants Beijing immense oversight over a supply chain that the world depends on. Today, China controls the vast majority of global rare earth processing capacity, a dominance built over decades of investment, research, and industrial planning. With this single policy, that dominance becomes not just economic, but strategic, a powerful lever in its ongoing trade discussions with Washington. In response, U.S. officials are warning of possible countermeasures: new tariffs on Chinese goods, or restrictions on certain technologies exported to China. The tone between both sides has sharpened, ending months of relative calm since negotiators agreed to a pause earlier this year. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called the development a test of resilience for global supply chains, while a spokesperson for China's Commerce Ministry defended the move as consistent with national security priorities and long-term industrial strategy. The timing is no coincidence. Later this month, President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping are scheduled to meet, a high-stakes discussion on the future of economic cooperation. And now, the rare earth issue is almost certain to dominate the agenda. Analysts suggest that China's move may be deliberate, a calculated effort to strengthen its negotiating position before the talks begin. As one Australian scholar put it, this decision shocks the system by reminding the world just how essential these minerals are and how concentrated their production remains. Despite their name, rare earths aren't actually rare. What makes them valuable is not scarcity, but complexity, the challenge and cost of refining them into usable materials. It helps us bring you deep, balanced analysis that connects global policy to real-world impact. Now, back to the story. The United States faces a delicate balancing act. It wants to protect its industries and secure its supply chains, but it also needs to preserve stability in global trade. Tariffs and export controls can send powerful messages, yet they risk inflaming tensions further. China, by contrast, seems willing to accept short-term costs. For long-term strategic leverage, rare earth exports may make up less than 0.1% of China's GDP, but their importance far outweighs their economic size. They are, in effect, a pressure point, small in number, massive in consequence. Recent data shows China's rare earth exports have already fallen by more than 30% compared to last year, the result of earlier restrictions introduced in the spring. Economists say the drop barely dents China's economy, but it signals something bigger. Beijing is preparing its position before high-level trade talks begin. As one analyst put it, China's getting its ducks in a row. Meanwhile, the US and its allies are racing to diversify supply. Australia has significant reserves and is expanding its refining capacity. Japan and the European Union are investing heavily in recycling, extracting rare earths from discarded electronics. Together, these efforts reflect a growing global determination to reduce dependence on any single supplier. But progress takes time, and for now, China remains the central hub. Some American strategists argue Washington still has cards to play. One option offers selective tariff reductions in exchange for loosened export restrictions, a deal that could appeal to Beijing as its export markets slow. Another approach: maintain restrictions on China's access to high-end semiconductors, limiting its technological reach. Yet, analysts caution, such moves may delay China's progress, but they won't stop it. Beijing's recent policies suggest it's willing to operate under pressure to achieve its long-term development goals. Both nations understand the stakes. An unchecked escalation could destabilize global markets, and neither side wants that outcome. For now, dialogue remains open, but every statement, every policy shift is a test of endurance and of will. Analysts say the key difference lies in what each country can withstand. The United States can absorb higher consumer prices, at least for a while. China can endure reduced exports, so long as it gains strategic flexibility. This tug-of-war sets the stage for a complex negotiation, where both sides measure success not just in profits, but in power. As the month unfolds, all eyes are on how these rules are enforced, and whether they trigger more responses. For companies dependent on rare earths, uncertainty itself has become a cost. It shapes investments, delays production, and alters global planning. What happens next will depend on whether the world's two largest economies choose cooperation or confrontation. What makes this story so compelling isn't just the policy itself, but the reminder it offers about interdependence. In a world where technology links every nation, a single policy shift in Beijing can echo through factories in Detroit, research labs in Tokyo, and supply chains across Europe. The rare earth issue is a vivid lesson in how tightly our economies are intertwined, and how every link in that chain matters. By the end of this year, the outcome of talks between China and the United States could determine whether supply chains begin to stabilize or enter another period of turbulence. And for those following this story closely, the message is clear. Even the smallest materials can carry immense weight in global politics. Watching how both nations navigate this challenge will reveal much about the future of international trade and about how power is measured in the 21st century. So as we continue tracking this evolving story, remember, today's policy shifts often become tomorrow's turning points. Stay tuned, and if you haven't already, subscribe for fact-based, balanced coverage that cuts through the noise. Because this isn't just a story about trade. It's about how the world adapts when strategy, science, and economics collide on the same global stage.